Welcome back to the show. You joined me in my kitchen. You mean you don't have E28 M5 seats in your kitchen and some V70R cams? Well, there's always eBay. I'd like to first start off with just a giant thank you to people who've subscribed to this channel. I know that sounds very common on these, but it really means a lot, right? I mean, I'm not looking to get rich and famous off these. I'm just a car nut that is using YouTube as like a vessel to share my love of cars with you guys. So hopefully you enjoy that. Hazy IPA. We've got a lot of interesting stuff to share with you this afternoon. We've got a new project car, but let's cover first some of the things that's happened since the last video. So the V70R has moved on to its new owner up in Washington. He's done some cool stuff to it, IPD catback exhaust and some more programming and things, so that car's still living a really cool journey. I actually replaced that car with a late model 135i 6-speed manual with the N55 motor, which is like one of the best cars out there. It's like perfect. It's fast, it's handles, it's not too long, and it was actually so good I kind of got rid of it because what's interesting in a car that's good. I did a valve cover gasket on it. I MHD tuned it like every other N54 and N55 person out there, and yeah, no, it's a lovely car, and that's actually how I ended up with my current project. But before we get to that, let's talk about the new filming location. Not my kitchen, but actually I rented my own little garage right in San Francisco, which is kind of a rarity, and I've actually been like painting it and making it nice for this. So I didn't want to show you like any kind of janky backdrop. It is just a residential style garage, but it's right in Soma. I affectionately call it the studio, and hopefully some fun's gonna be had there. So that's probably where you're going to start seeing the next episode film is actually from within the garage. For this update, I just thought it was more comfortable and handy just to do it here in my kitchen. Anyways, so what's the new project car? You already know her name is Stella from the title of this video, but I'll give you a little riddle. Let's see if I can say this right, Georgi Tadzevede, I think that's almost right, Sabine Schmitz, and Mark McGuire have in common? I'll let you think about it for a second. One's a race car driver, queen of the Nürburgring. The other one, may he rest in peace, was queen of drifting in Tbilisi. And the last is, Major League Baseball player. And allegedly, let me see that, try that again. Allegedly, if you watch Letterkenny, the first owner of my car, the E34 M5. This is not my first M5. I owned one back in the day, but it's just such a classic beauty that I just wanted to make it happen when my buddy finally decided to say, hey, let's work out a trade between the 135 and the M5 and kind of what parts were involved and things that had to be done. So that is a done deal now. I smogged the M5 and she is my own very car. It's a 91, black on black, and it is not without issue. And of course, right, it wouldn't be a project. I wouldn't be here talking to you if it was perfectly sorted out M5. That's where like EAG and stuff go. It's not quite a basket case. It's actually a really lovely car. My buddy owned it from 1995 till now. Before then, there was a guy who had it for about a year, SCCA instructor, trying to get a hold of him. And he alleges that Mark was the first owner of the car from 91 to 94. I think probably like a 3-year lease or something like that. But there's definitely a BS factor there. So let's drop that until I get some concrete evidence, or if some of you guys are DMV experts can help me figure this out. Because I went to AAA and asked when I titled the car, I'm like, can you see the first name on this title? If it's, no, she would have none of it. but it's a very straight car. All the panels are OEM VIN plates on every single panel. The top portions of the car have been painted black, just from sun fade, which is not the worst. The interior, surprisingly, the driver's seat, like the bolsters are perfect on the driver's seat. It's actually the passenger seat is a little bit hardened because of sunshine, and the back seat is just awful. The back seat is just trashed. Door panels are kind of okay. So I would actually like your suggestions of what to do. You know, the easy thing would be just to put black leather back inside it. It will look pretty good. I'm not a huge fan of black on black. I think it looks a little bit boring. So my last car that was black on black was Bella, the E30 325 IS. And on that car, I did the M fabric, right? The M Motorsport fabric. And I really like that. Granted, I like my butt sitting in leather, just, you know, just a personal preference. So that's one option. I could put like the Motorsport fabric, like, you know, centers with the black bolsters. And then I found some door panels, I want to say in like Latvia, on the Beer Reforms E34 Facebook group. Or I could just kind of keep the front seat, get a replacement back seat. Again, kind of the boring, normal way to do things, which is not my typical MO. Or, this idea has been kind of like my thing. I love cars that are like dark exterior with like a lighter interior. And I was thinking something along the lines of like the cinnamon color in E46 M3s. So do the seats front and back in that cinnamon color, and then the door panel inserts in that. Or even maybe like a terracotta color, I don't know. I'll keep thinking about it. If you have any suggestions, I am not really leaning one way or the other. It's all gonna be about the same amount of money and the same amount of work to make happen. And I think a lot of those could look really cool. Back to some of the issues with the car. It needs chains. It needs chains yesterday. The chains have stretched. They are noisy. The car has 190,000 miles. It's been incredibly well maintained by the PO, but you can't escape chains on these cars, and that's always the very scary thing that can go wrong. I've ordered the parts. They should be on their way. Most of them were here in America, you know, doing the guides, the chains, the sprockets. I'm currently doing the drop the oil pan method and then pull the timing chain cover off. I've got a lot of friends trying to sway me into pulling the head off and doing a, you know, valve job and kind of everything while I'm in there. I don't want to scope creep too much. This is my only car, so I like to do things in like bite sizes. So I feel like doing the chains with the oil pan method is almost like a weekend project, and then I can drive the car. And you know, if it really, you know, strikes me as something I want to do in the next couple weeks / months, I'll yank the head off and then send it off to, you know, get resurfaced and clean a new head on it. Currently, right now, I'm driving it very slowly. I'm literally puttering around, not passing 4,000 RPM, and limiting my driving because I really don't want that chain to go. So that's one of the big ones. The air conditioning doesn't work, just nothing. It's still an R12 system, so don't know if there's any refrigerant left in it. Fun fact, it's what I do for a living. I am an HVAC sales engineer. But so when it comes to cars, that's like the one thing I actually kind of have, you know, pretty good knowledge about, I hope. So yeah, either keep it R12, but getting a hold of R12 is tough, or if the compressor's shot, then taking all the oil out of the system anyways and refrigerant out of the system, put a new expansion valve and a R134A compressor. In my last project I did the swap on, I actually also did a nice parallel flow condenser, and that really got me just ice cold AC, I think 38 degrees leaving air temps out of the vents. It was awesome. So we'll see. That's another big project. Since the car's again black on black, it'd be nice to have AC in it. The suspension is almost as you'd expect for 190,000 miles. It has, I've already fixed a little bit of this actually, so I couldn't stand having it this bad. It had 3 dine-in springs, 2 rears, 1 front, self-leveling in the back, Bilstein Sports in the front, and only one side had a dine-in camber plate. What happened is one of the springs, the 9-inch springs, failed, like hit a pothole. Previous owner broke a spring, and he just kind of replaced it with just whatever spring he had laying around, and I wanted to fix that. So I picked up some H&Rs, which is my go-to brand for everything. Like I made the count. I've owned 60 cars, and I easily want to say 45 of them ended up with H&Rs. I'm surprised they don't send me like a birthday card. And with the car, I got a set of Coney's, Coney SAs, so the single adjustable yellows, which are really comfy. You know, I love the Bilsteins. They get a little bit of a harsh ride. The Coney's are lovely. So I have put, with the help of my buddy, put the 2 Coney's up front, the 2 H&R springs up front with bump stops. Now let me talk to you about bump stops. I feel like that's like the most overlooked thing when doing suspension. It's like, ugh, this thing is all disgusting and like falling apart. I'm just not gonna put it back in. Get new bump stops. They save your shocks. I'm looking at you. Please get new bump stops. Coney's actually die when you don't when they bottom out. So what'll happen with the Coney is the adjustment mechanism. When you twist them up top, it adjusts the valving doodad on the bottom. I forgot the actual term for it. And when the shock bottoms out, that gets hit. And if you ever see a Coney where the top little adjustment knob is broken off, according to Coney, what happens is the shock is bottomed out, and somebody's tried to adjust it. It wouldn't adjust it. It just put more force to it and snapped the top off. So again, remember, new bump stops. Bump stop increase spring rate to way higher as the car bottoms out and tries to remove it from jarring. So they're not a bad thing. Rant over. For the rear, I decided to buy the H&R non-self-leveling kit. I did go back and forth. I'm a big fan of factory options. I love getting factory options to work as much as possible, you know, within like reason. And it seems like the self-leveling can be fixed with a $5 O-ring in each rear shock to stop them from leaking. I just have heard so many nightmares. I've personally had nightmares. Actually, since I bought the car, one of the self-leveling hoses split, which is run off the power steering, and it was dumping CHS 11S all over the streets here around my neighborhood. And that's kind of the part that gave me heartburn. Is that just get rid of it. Just put Coney's in the back. I know people love SLS. They're diehard SLS fans out there. But anyway, suspension-wise, more than likely, it's going to get a 535i pump. Coney's in the back, H&R springs in the back as well. We've covered the interior. The car does have a couple cool mods. It does have a performance chip in it. It seems like there was a special edition of E34 M5s given to the South Carolina Highway Patrol. And these had factory modified tunes. And it was a thing you could get back in the early 2000s, maybe late 90s, probably off some like bulletin board website thing. But apparently this car has that, so it's got a little bit more power than stock. And it feels pretty tight, it feels pretty good. It's got a CD4.3 with a Grom audio input, which I always like. It's got the most perfect set of throwing stars I've ever seen. The previous owner's a fanatic about that. He actually begged me to take him off the car because he knew the car would be living in the city. And I'm actually running a set of his race car wheels. He runs a BMW in lemons, and he runs throwing star M-System wheels without the covers. And for you lemons guys, you can probably figure out who the previous owner is. Not many people in lemons run those wheels. But since the season's been kind of run short with COVID and all, he let me borrow them for a little bit. And they're lovely. They've got RE71R tires, and yeah, I mean, I pushed the car sort of hard the other day, and I just didn't even get them warm yet. Another cool mod the PO did was it's got the 8 Series E31 4-piston Brembos up front, and the, I think, 840 Ci rotors. And funny enough, that reduces the cost of consumables for track days, bro. And that's why the previous owner did it. They used to be kind of an attainable mod, but nowadays are kind of pricey, like everything E34 really is going up in price. So yeah, once I sorted out the engine, Supposedly the car is on its factory clutch, still feels great. Transmission, get drag 280, feels great. I'm gonna do a fluid dump on, you know, everything in the car, fresh fluid, when I get the chain sorted. Suspension sorted's next. Front suspension probably needs new bushings. It's got a hard shutter under braking, which from my experience is 50-50. Typically rotors don't give that kind of a hard shutter. Typically that's like a thrust arm bushings, which like let the wheels kind of do this as you're braking hard. I'm gonna probably ceramic coat the car, make it look nice. And yeah, the leather thing, the interior, that's up to you guys. You know, I need somebody to kind of push me one way or the other on that. Again, car's black on black. I'm hopefully gonna one day run the nice throwing star wheels again. And but yeah, she's daily driver status, so need something kind of comfy and nice. Anyways, I hope you appreciated this update, and glad to see all you guys and gals out there. Keep liking, keep subscribing. You know, it's the only way I know that you are enjoying these and that I'll keep making more. And hope you're staying safe out there. These aren't fun times. Definitely challenging. So do what you love as much as you can, and love the ones around you. Cheers, guys.